Today I'm going to be doing a book review on Monty Don, the Complete Gardener. Now this is a wonderfully befitting title for a book because this is exactly what this book is about. It's about Monty Don and his garden. It is a passionate story about how Monty took his 2-acre home and made it into a beautiful collection of gardens and designed it into a showcase of skill, elegant design and beauty. I simply love the structure of this book and its layout. You know, Monty is an organic gardener and he is a real champion for this cause. You can feel this theme of his passion for organics right throughout the book. Now he begins by explaining what it means to be organic. He talks about his relationship with the weather and the earth, and he talks about how the elements affect it, where you'll get little microclimates and all sorts of stuff. And he speaks about working with nature and using nature to solve the problems that he's experiencing in the garden. He tells you how to analyze your soil and what plants would be suitable in what type of soils. Now, he talks about the structure of a garden and what gives the garden structure. Once again, he talking about the macro elements like the design principles that he's using and the practical considerations, and then he goes on to tell you what gives the garden structure and its three-dimensionality. It's things like paths and fences and coppices and walls and trees inside the garden. And he starts again looking at it on the macro side and saying this is how everything will give it and this is how it should look in a three-dimensionality. And then he delves deeper again into each plant, each tree, and he talks about it on how to look after it and how to care for it and what sort of seasons it is affected in. Now this pattern of looking at the macro view and then delving deeper into each plant is an ongoing theme in this book, and it goes right throughout the book. As all this is based on his own experience, it's full of suggestions of what plants to use and etc., and it's full of lots of helpful tips. Along the margins of the book, there are little sections where if he's talking about a certain type of soil, he'll have a list of different plants that are useful for that sort of soil. So it has a wealth of information in this. And then he goes on and he talks about his different flower gardens. Now he's got a number of flower gardens. And what's beautiful about his flower gardens is they come up in their own different seasons. So he's never with a garden that is not in somehow beautiful at that time of the year. Now, once again, he starts, as I say, from the macro of its design and everything else and how to put it in a structure and everything, and delves into the deeper plants. And then he goes on to his vegetable sections once he's finished with a number of flowers. And here he talks about crop rotation and the importance of it. But the most redeeming thing about the vegetable garden, or the feature, is it mirror images what he's done with the flowers. So where the flowers have their different seasons, so it is with the vegetables. He'll start with something like the spring vegetable garden. What vegetables grow in spring, and then he'll go through summer and autumn, and then he'll end up with winter. What are your winter vegetables and what are you doing during that time? He also has two other sections, which is the herb garden, and he does it in exactly the same way as he's done the others, of what herbs to grow, and start with the macro and then go down. And then he's got the fruit garden, where he's got his orchard which is covered with the top fruit, and then his soft fruits, which are a separate issue. Now, this book is so full of information, right from the initial sowing through to the nurturing and pruning and harvesting. Monty has such a wealth, and the knowledge just oozes from him through his experience. Monty teaches the reader by his experience, both his successes and his failures. He doesn't hold back. He's not ashamed of his failures. He likes to say, I tried this, it didn't work, I had to move it to here. And everything in Monty's garden has grown through experimentation and trying something, and if it doesn't work, we'll move it and what is available at the time. And he has an extensive background and a wealth of experience. But more importantly, this book is about Monty and his relationships with all living things in his garden. It is a book about a man and his relationship or his friendship with his garden. This book is written for the organic gardener. The beginner will find a wealth of information in this book, as most of the basic know-how is covered, right from the propagation of seeds to the pruning to the care to the harvest of your crops or even your flowers. And I think a person that would appreciate more out of this book would suit a more serious gardener, a person that has a lot of space and time. But most of all, I think this book will suit a person who wants to view his garden different, and a person that wants to fall in love with his garden and fall in love with what he sees when he creates it. This is who I think this book would be most useful for. You know, what do I think about Monty Don? I pondered this question for a while, and the first thing that struck me about Monty Don is that he's a hard worker. He's a real grafter. He's a man that likes to get his back into what he's doing, and he loves what he's doing. It's all about hard physical work. But then when I thought a little deeper, you know, under that tough exterior, there lies a deeply passionate man. A man that is driven and will accept no compromise on what he believes is right and just. Whilst I only see this in his relationship with his views to his organic garden, I can't help but think that it's almost inevitable that this would abound in every facet of his life. I think he's a truly driven man with a great strength of character. I would love to meet Monty Don. I think he's a real champion for the organic cause, and I think he's a great man. So what are my concluding statements? This book can be read from cover to cover, or it can be used as a reference book, such as the design and the structure and the layout of the book. It is an easy-to-read book and a real pleasure to read, and every sentence has some information for the reader. I think this book is great value for money, and I think any gardener should be proud to have it on his bookshelf, because I think it is a real classic. I had to buy it in hardcover, I think, just to keep the information inside. There's such a lot, it seems like it just wants to get out, and I'll miss it again. I need it in the cover. I love this book. I think it is a really, really good book. And I thank you for listening. And please subscribe if you like what I say. And I thank you very much. Bye-bye. Yes! Please subscribe!